Good evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of December 19th, 2013. This evening, we'll go over a couple of budgets, but first we're going to start with the Dana White, who's on the Regional School Committee, and she's going to speak about fiscal 15 warrant article for the Dover-Sherburne Regional Campus.
Excellent.
Hello, Dana. Thank you. Good.
I am here representing our capital subcommittee of the Regional School Committee, and I'm happy to tell you about what's going on in terms of our capital planning for this year. I figured it was most important to start off with a little background about the campus and what we're looking at. So in 2003, as many of you know who have lived in town, we undertook a major $40 million renovation to the regional campus. That included renovated high school, renovated athletic fields, a brand new middle school, upgrading to the shared facilities of the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the auditorium, largely with the help of the Mudge Foundation on that. But minimal work to the rest of Lindquist or the gyms, either at the middle school and the high school. So after 2003, I would say we had about 10 years of a honeymoon period. Very little requirement in terms of money going into the buildings, whether for maintenance or anything that was approaching end of life. Starting in about 2014 and looking forward, we realized that that honeymoon phase is coming to an end, and it's really time to start investing in this campus that we spent $40 million to create. It's really important to us as a regional school committee, and I know it is as well to the selectmen, that we maintain the assets that are part of our, under our jurisdiction. We want to make sure that we are investing so that we're not deferring projects that should be taken care of, and as things are up to the end of their estimated useful life, that we're really replacing them prudently and being fiscally responsible. We also know that there's some things that needed to be taken care of that were not part of the 2003 renovation. The most important to that was the middle school air conditioning that the town of both Dover and Sherburne approved last year and was put in over the summer and has been operating well since the start of the school year. And I think really did make a difference to both the students and the teachers within the building. We also want to try and leverage new technologies as they come online, whether that's LED lights or other sort of energy efficient lighting, the turf fields that have been put in place, and most importantly to make sure that we're budgeting for all of that appropriately. So with that as the background, we started to think about what our process should look like in terms of specifying capital budget needs and what we could bring to the towns. And most importantly, we wanted to broaden the window, because I think historically we've looked at things on a one-year basis. I think it makes sense to the extent that we can to start looking at things as both a 5-year window and even a 10-year window where we have that insight. So that each year we do really 4 things. We define the capital projects that make sense for this fiscal year. Then we figure out how to pay for them. So we try and disaggregate what needs to be done from the best way to pay for them. Bring both towns and the different committees into the process so they know what we're talking about, how much we're talking about, and then bring all of that information back to the regional school committee in order to bring the right number to the towns at town meeting. Looking at our fiscal 15 process, we brought the band back together again, which is the capital subcommittee, which includes Steve Bliss, the superintendent, Chris Tagg, who's the business manager, Ralph Kelly, our facilities director, as well as 2 members of our school committee, Michael Lee from Sherburne, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight since he is at the Sherburne Board of Selectmen meeting, and myself from Dover. We were able to use the plan that Onsite Insight put together, which was a 20-year look at the region, at all of the capital items that are part of the regional campus, and gave an estimate to their end of useful life and how much on an estimated dollar basis it would take to replace the items in the campus. And those are, we have these available if anybody in the town wants to look at them. They're certainly welcome to have a look. What Michael Lee did was take all of the items in here, which is hundreds of lines of projects, and put them all into a database that would allow us to search on those projects and figure out what the right date is for a project to be done. Because as we all know, having done projects in our house, there's always a window of maybe the earliest date that you could have a project done, and then the latest date that you'd be intelligently doing projects so that you weren't overly deferring any one item. So once you create that window for each of those projects, you can slide that window based on what Mr. Kelly at the Regions would apply to his knowledge of the buildings. So we built the database with all of these items in it, and then we're able to sort it on each given year. We did also want to look at the projects that we approved last year, the $122,000 of projects that we all approved last year, just to make sure that they were progressing well and that we had done the right thing with the money that we were entrusted from the towns. And all of those projects are on track and will be finished by the end of the fiscal year. So as I said, we took our projects, looked at what the as late as dates were between fiscal years 15 and 19. We also had about 20 projects that we deemed in our parking lot, which meant that last year we just didn't have enough information to give them a date. We were able to sort through all of those. There actually now is only one project left in the parking lot. We tried to look at where projects had multi-years associated with them or projects that might benefit from an economy of scale. So bringing together multiple flooring projects so that we could get a bid that might be able to take advantage of better costing with a larger order, or have one set of specialists come in and do the work as opposed to having it drawn out over multiple years. And we also then had an eye towards one of the projects that were in the as late as dates out in fiscal year 20 to 25. So making sure that we also thought about what that 10-year window was and not just the 5-year window. We did add, with Mr. Kelly's input, any projects that weren't in this list that was done by the outside consultant. There are a few smaller projects. The concrete that's in front of the school has ended up not holding up and was not on that project list. We made an effort to reach out to the Sherburne Energy Committee. There's actually a group in Sherburne that looks at energy efficiency. They did an audit at Pine Hill to determine where light fixtures might be able to be upgraded, but most importantly, to be able to use outside money. So where there might be grants available, either corporate grants or state or national grants that could be leveraged, that would provide significant and important payback if we were to make some of those changes. And they've agreed to help us work through some of the issues at the regional campus as well, because there are quite a number of opportunities for us to realize some energy efficiency there, if it makes sense. We did exclude any sort of additional upgrade to the athletic complex. At this point, we're deeming that to be a boosters project, so anything that would be done to continue to upgrade the athletic complex, we did exclude from this exercise, as well as anything additional to the Mudge Auditorium, because the Mudge Foundation, as I said, has been such a great partner in that auditorium. We will work with them if there's any additional projects that are desired to be done just to the auditorium. They're not responsible for the rest of the building, but to the Performing Arts Center as it is. And we also have opted for this year to defer any discussion on the administration building. As you know, that's a historical building that sits in front of the middle school that houses the central office staff. There are a number of projects that have been identified as things that would need to be upgraded and updated. There are some probably code issues that might get triggered as you start opening up projects, so we deferred that to be a more general discussion about the location of central office and administrative staff, especially as we look towards decreasing enrollment and where other real estate might be available within the towns as opposed to investing in that particular building. But I think that deserves its own discussion, and we weren't ready to really undertake that. So we've deferred any of the projects around the admin building, and we'll probably start that discussion next spring. So once we went through all that process, what did that look like? So once the database, all of the windows were set, and we knew about when the earliest and latest date were, we sorted on that, and the numbers fall out as are listed in the presentation. So over the next 5 years, we're looking at an average of approximately $374,000 per year of capital expenditures. The fiscal 15 number is $362,000, which represents 21 different projects, mostly in the $10,000 to $35,000 range. There is the largest number in there is a $47,000 passenger van, which, just so that you know, is currently sitting in two places. It's sitting both in that warrant potentially and in the operating budget, because it is a van that we would need in order to serve the needs of the students who will be projected to be in the region next year, which actually would provide good savings in terms of out-of-district placement. So I think it's the right thing to do to bring it into our budget. We're just doing some final analysis to figure out what the best place for that to live will be. And at this point, it does exclude the last item in the parking lot, which is an upgrade to the observatory, which is currently on the high school roof, probably an upper $80,000 project, and I think we continue to leave it in the parking lot because we think it might be something that would speak to a private-public partnership, whether it's a corporation or some interest by DSEF or some other educational organizations that might be interested in bringing that up to where it needs to be in terms of a renovation. There are over $600,000 of energy efficiency projects that are not counted in these fiscal years right now. Again, we're awaiting more of an audit from the Sherburne Energy Committee to know where anything in that area should lie. None of those have to be done. It would be more if the payback of making the projects would be beneficial to us on an energy basis.
So they're not on the.
They're not on this now.
They're not on the.
They're not
on the report.
They're not. They're in the report, but we haven't included them in our request projections because they don't have to be done for end of useful life. They're more payback issues.
Okay.
And then there's a small amount of athletic projects that, again, that we continue to exclude because the boosters are likely a good partner in terms of funding for that. So 362 would be the number for fiscal 15. It would go up a little bit in 16. We're looking at 432,000 of 28 projects, 396 in 17 for 16 projects, 230, so it does dip a little bit in fiscal 18, and then it's back up around 450 with over 20 projects in fiscal 19. There are, if we do look at our 5 to 10 year window, there are a few big ticket projects in the fiscal 20s, 20, 23, and 25 around high school and Lindquist HVAC, obviously nothing that for the middle school that has just been done, as well as potential roof updates that will need to be done. Now, again, trying to disaggregate the projects from the how do we pay for them, there may be an opportunity between now and then, especially if we know this is coming down the road, to do some financial management around potentially calling bonds or working with our municipal finance to figure out how do you free up that in order to be able to absorb those projects down the road so that we don't overburden the budget in any one year. So the caveats to all of that, these are, of course, based on these projections that were done by Onsite Insight. We have updated a few of the line items. For example, flooring we know has become more expensive since this project was done, so we increased the materials in all of our flooring projects by the appropriate amount. Obviously, the timing could shift if anything were to show more wear and tear than we were expecting. But again, because this database has been built in such a way that we could easily move those sliders. And if we found that one year was being overly burdened, we could perhaps look to see if we could move something else to a later year. Obviously, there'll be things that might come up that were unanticipated, and these do not include technology and fixtures, which are outside the scope of this audit. But we feel pretty good about that this is representative and I guess conservative enough in terms of we're not trying to front load and pay for things that don't need to be done. We want to be smart, but we also want to make sure that we're not deferring, because I think no one wants to be in the situation where we're not managing the asset. The other way we sometimes will think about this is at 362,000, we're basically at under 1% of our asset value, which sounds like it would be an amount that might, for all of us with houses, seems like something that might make sense in terms of a gut check on the total number. The next is a list of what all of those 21 different projects are that make up the 362,000. There's some vehicles, some walls, door projects, some flooring. Most of the painting projects have been absorbed into the operating budget because they can be done by Mr. Kelly's staff during the course of the school year. The only ones that can't and that remain in the capital projects are ones that either require scaffolding to do or are very, very large areas that couldn't be done by the staff without incurring extensive overtime. And then finally, some upgrades to the high school team and locker room and the high school gym that had not been done in the renovation. So, as I said, we focus primarily on what needs to be done. The next question then is how do we pay for it? And we have started to think about the different options, and obviously that will come down to what is the suggestion and the working together with the the warrant committee as well as the Board of Selectmen. But some of the options, we have submitted warrants to both the towns of Dover and Sherburne with placeholders for the $362,000 that enumerate the 21 different projects. We certainly could bring some of those projects into the operating budget, potentially up to the full amount as capital items on our operating budget. We do carry a $35,000 line item for things that break that we're not expecting to, that is not part of that. But we could certainly bring more things into the operating budget if it were deemed to be ideal. And then the last that we are currently trying to investigate is whether an intermunicipal agreement would make sense, which would, as you probably know, if you have a background in this, it would allow the towns of Dover and Sherburne to select how they want to pay for things differently. So if one town wanted to pay free cash, and while the other town wanted to bond, you would have the flexibility to choose how you wanted to pay based on your own fiscal analysis. And I would say Steve Bliss has done a fantastic job of trying to shepherd that through both towns, and I think we are waiting to hear back from Sherburne on where they come out on that. And there's been, I think, some very good memos sent to the Board of Selectmen there to try and bring them up to speed on why we think it would make sense to put something like that in place.
Thank you, Dana.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I think it's been a very collaborative process. We had a great meeting with the Capital Budget Committee on Monday. The warrant committee's been in the loop. We will certainly come back and work with them, obviously before they need to be in front of the town to answer questions, but we're happy to continue to answer any questions on this.
I have a couple of generic questions. Last year at town meeting, the $122,000 was approved. Was that part of the on-site, in-site?
Yes.
Okay, so
those were the ones. So what we did our very first year, we sat down with Mr. Kelly and said, of this, what must be done this year?
Okay, so that was one.
So knowing that we were putting $857,000 of an air conditioning project in front of the towns, we tried to be as judicious as possible on what was in that 122, and that really did represent what had to be done this year.
Now, big picture, you got a great report last year. Is everyone on board with that report?
In terms of internal
Everything listed in the report?
To the best of our knowledge, yes. I mean, we can't say that something might not come up, but this was incredibly comprehensive in terms of interior, exterior, all the buildings, all of the systems.
So there was no outrageous suggestions or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that and if anything would have been deemed a nice to have, it's been pushed out in time.
Good. You mentioned that you're looking at add projects not currently in the database. Has there been identified any major projects?
No, the only one we have is a $9,000 concrete redo of the landing area right in front of
Right.
of the high school. I believe it's $9,000.
The athletic complex, you excluded the $1.5 million out of that. Is that phase 2 and 3 that's commonly referred to?
Exactly.
Thank you.
And just so this was not done, even the consultants did not work in a vacuum. I mean, they went around with Mr. Kelly looking at everything. So he, as the person who's aware of what's going on in the campus, was with them, and then he's been the one sitting down and adjusting it, knowing what really needs to be done in any given year.
Okay, you said you have a maintenance budget of $35,000 that's typically used to pay for capital projects. Now, in my mind, the concrete fixing would have been under that. Now, I'm not asking you to answer one way or the other, so that's what I'm thinking. If it is suggested that we capitalize all these projects, is the maintenance budget going to come down?
It could be. That's a good question. There should be some economies in that. I think the other thing would be is if there's ever a project that gets done with that amount of money, it would certainly come off of a future year. Okay. So probably if he had been able to do the concrete this year with that, it might very well then have come off of the future year project.
Okay, thanks. And it was a great presentation, by the way. Lastly, everyone should be very aware that it's very well documented that the town of Dover supports the IMA.
Yes.
And we have for a number of years. So just so we're very, very clear on that.
I I hear it loud and clear, and I believe that the superintendent is aware of that as well.
And I believe the Sherburne Board of Selectmen are aware of that as well.
I think so. I mean, it certainly makes sense because it would allow the towns to fund in the way that is best for their individual
That's our position.
situation.
That's our position.
Which really gets down to the issue that you have of what do we put into the capital budget and what do we put in the operating budget?
Right.
Because it doesn't really matter. Okay, it all comes out of the same pot, Dover and Sherburne. It's all done by the same algorithm that's used to divvy up the total expenses. It's more a political issue of what can get through town meeting in the two towns and how it's done, right? One of the things that the Capital Budget Committee mentioned when they presented on Monday, Mike Lee was there as well, and we too were incredibly impressed with the presentation, was that the work that Dana and Mike did to take the on-site insight database, which was given to Mike, I understand, electronically, and then you guys massaged it and put it into your own database,
Yes.
okay, needs to be institutionalized within school administration. Because at some point, Dana and Mike aren't going to be on the regional school committee. It's really something that should be under the control of the superintendent's staff.
Good point.
To make sure that this thing gets continued, that it keeps its on-site insight, which I know well, it's a dynamic process. You take off, you put on, otherwise you've wasted the money 3 years down the road.
Right.
If it's left as a static report, it's useless. So, which is why it has to get institutionalized.
That's an excellent point. Because we talk about, and you know, this is really a town-wide issue sometimes, where institutional memory,
Right.
because of
Right.
every year you're voting someone new in who doesn't know what the heck happened last year. So that's a great point.
And I certainly know that he'd be more than happy to work with the central office staff to bring that capability in-house.
Yep.
Well, to that point, me personally, very pleased with Superintendent Bliss's work. So,
He's been hands-on and knowledgeable, and yet letting his staff
Right.
really manage this, which is, I think, a good leadership.
But he's
Process.
addressing some of the priorities that the towns have required,
Right.
so, and that's key. Dana and I have been talking about this all fall, and this finally came through. As a result, I'd like to suggest a little different process going forward. Traditionally, we have Dover, the Selectmen, as well as Capital Budget Committee, have not really been involved at all in the region's capital budget requests. It's gone right to the Warren Committee without any review by the Selectmen or the Capital Budget Committee. That's a very different process than in Sherburne, where the Sherburne Capital Budget Committee gets very involved, as does advisory. And I don't know about the Selectmen, but. So, for a bunch of reasons, we think that it's appropriate to change the policy, procedure a little bit. One is that we're now at a point where we have much higher numbers. You know, we're talking an average of, whatever it was, 3-something a year,
374.
374.
Approximately.
So it gets more attention than 122 or 50,000 or 35 that's in the operating budget. We're now looking at a long-term situation, so over the next 10 or 15 years, we're talking about spending tens of millions of dollars if some of the big projects go through. We need to make sure, as we do with all our other buildings in Dover, but this one we share with Sherburne, that to Dana's point before, that the assets maintained. And we don't want to ever get ourselves into another Carroll School situation. And for consistency's sake, we review every other capital budget. Why shouldn't we review this one? So our suggestion is, the Capital Budget Committee's suggestion is that we roll this into our normal process, where the region would come before the Capital Budget Committee, as they did on Monday. And maybe in the future, we try to have a joint capital budget warrant and selectmen's or some subset, so that we don't have the same presentations, same folks having to go to 3 different groups. And handle it that way. Also, if we do get an IMA, then the selectmen need to get involved because of the financing issues. So,
I wholeheartily agree with that because of the IMA, number one, and because of the scope of the dollars that the town's gonna have to vote on, whether it's through assessment, whether it's through long-term financing, so I agree with that. So does the regional school committee agree with that? which is as important to us agreeing
Well,
with
you know,
it.
yeah, we discussed this
Yeah,
on Monday, so Dana needs to go
Oh,
back to
okay.
the school.
yeah, I don't think I can represent, I think I get in a lot of trouble if I represented
Right.
Yeah.
4 to 6.
But does it make sense on the surface?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Warren has any, I think more information is better, so my own personal opinion is I have no problem having more people part of the process, but I know officially I can't speak for the regional school.
Yeah, one of the things we don't want to do is interrupt normal operations and add layers to any process.
Right.
But the numbers are so big that, and if we have to do if we do sign the IMA, then it's
Exactly.
basically on our shoulders to some degree.
Would you
Good.
like me to have that brought as part of our January 7th meeting, our regional school committee meeting?
I would think the sooner the regional school committee determines that's a proper course of action, the better.
Okay, I will have it added to the agenda.
Thank you, Dana. I have no further questions.
No, nor do I. It's even better the second time around.
You knew what was coming. All right, well, if you think of any other questions, let me know. And I'm happy to fill in Robin if she has any questions.
Great. Thank you,
All
Dana.
right, thanks,
Great,
guys.
thanks a lot.
Maybe we'll make some good- Yeah, happy New Year.
Happy New Year
Thank
to you.
Dana. Okay, as we move into the next item on the agenda, it's to approve the Selectmen's fiscal 2015 operating budgets. If you recall, we looked at a number of them last meeting. We had a few questions for Mr. Ramsey, and I believe all of those questions have been answered. Now, so just bear with me a second. Thank you for the summary. The numbers on it this year. Okay, Carol, how would you to proceed?
Well, we have to approve each one, right? Salaries and expenses. So I
Yes.
guess we should just start going through the pages.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, I'm listening.
okay, so
I'm
Department,
listening, go ahead.
so Department 122, which is the selectmen's budget. We had asked that the advertising be reduced by 500, so that was done.
It was reduced by an additional 500, yes.
Okay. So, therefore,
Are those
just
the
have-
new, is the revised?
It's in
It's in
your
your
folder.
packet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Get back together.
so we
Go
had
ahead.
296,027 and 49,076. Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Good.
Right, so, on Department 122, the Selectmen's budget, I move we approve salaries of 296,027, expenses of 49,076, for a total of 345,103.
Okay. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. Now, do you want to just work off the summary, Carol, or you?
Well,
gotta check
I'm
it back
working
and
on,
forth?
yeah, so
Okay.
but we could do either, I mean, doesn't, are these in,
Okay.
are these in order? No,
No,
Okay.
they're,
okay. So the next one in order is 129, right? Which is down a ways.
129. So these aren't in order,
Which is about 6 down.
Ah,
1, 2, 3, 4, okay. And that has remained okay, so we went to expenses of 30,400.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. And we have 135.
135, town accountant.
135, town accountant, just says 2 down from that one. And those numbers are the same, 153, 272. And expenses of 32,640 for 180. Okay, so I move we approve salaries of 153,272, expenses of 32,640 for a total of 185,912.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.
And we have
Treasurer collector,
treasurer
145.
145. 177,088.
Nothing has changed.
No, that looks the same, right? Yep. So I move we approve salaries of 177,088, expenses of 31,685 for a total of 208,773.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Law budget.
Law budget, which is up above a little bit, and we had discussed
Reducing that.
reducing that, and that does not show, okay,
Are we
so,
gonna, where is that? There it is.
so that does not show as reduced.
We did not revise it, we were waiting for
Oh,
your
okay.
decision on that before we actually went in and.
Oh,
made the
okay.
revision.
I remember we put that in a sort of
It
a
was sort
bucket
of
to the
on
side.
hold, right?
Oh, that's right.
You wanted me to look at some historical data?
Yep.
Which I got done, and it was last that we exceeded the 190, I think in 2004. Since then, we have miraculously come in under the 190, and with the further additional information of the November Town Council bill, which was only $2,000, we are trending now at only $168,000 annually, so I would be comfortable with the level funding at 190.
190,
Great. In that case,
good.
I move we approve 190 for law budget 151.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Data processing,
Processing.
155, which is right underneath treasurer collector on the,
I move we approve salaries of 54,568, expenses of 77,039, for a total of 131,607.
second, all in favor?
Aye. Now, Dave, sometime, I was gonna say when things slow down, but I'll,
Oh, that's a good time.
yeah. So when I'm 90, at some point, okay, maybe Bill can put together a short presentation for us on what do we, the inventory that we have and how stuff is used now, and, you know, it's been a while since we sort of had an overview of the processing.
Sure.
Sure, we can, yes.
You know, and to add to that, and I don't want to prolong this discussion all in the middle of that, but he might be too close to the situation, so you might have sort of an audit done of what your technical assets and needs. So let's talk about that later on.
We do have an
A consultant?
independent consultant come in annually.
Okay, good.
And
thank you.
he goes and he reviews all of our procedures and our equipment, and he makes recommendations. And
Well, you're ahead of me.
he really doesn't have any. He says that Bill is really running a good operation. given the particulars of Dover's needs and size and so forth, so, yeah.
Okay, I'm on
Conservation.
Conservation 171.
So I had requested to get a better understanding from Concom on the, on their budget line item for trail maintenance, since it hasn't been used much. And I see that they have submitted a memorandum, so.
Oh, that's what this is
Yeah.
for?
Yeah,
Thank you. So they want to use the 5,000 for this?
Yep.
Oh, it's part of, obviously. Good.
Please thank them for providing that.
we will.
So I move we approve salaries of $29,636, expenses of $33,795, for a total of $63,431.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Board of Appeals, 176.
Right. I know we discussed the situation. I think we should make a note to check this next year, really, because this is significantly higher. I know this year is going to be higher because we do have those two special developments, but, yeah.
Okay.
So I move we approve salaries of 2,435, expenses of 1,250, for a total of 3,685.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Whiting Road, 191.
Just out of curiosity, what order are these in?
I'm trying to figure that out. I knew at one time.
The summary sheet?
Uh-huh.
I
Yes.
don't know.
We
I
can,
can't recall, there was a meeting.
there
an amendment
was,
to it.
and I'm thinking, and I can't recall at this
We
moment.
might
It's
want
not
to,
numerical order.
nor is it alphabet, we might want to revisit that.
Yes, I think so.
Now, last, when we looked at the Whiting Road expenses, we talked about the utilities usage.
So this was included,
I saw that.
Whiting was not included.
Whiting was not included.
The ones that were looked at your request were the
Townhouse.
townhouse, protective agencies, and
Town
highway
garage.
garage. Because of the numbers involved, I think this is a relatively small number.
It's just, we have no cost in that relative. It's one of
You
those
wanna do-
things.
Yeah, I mean, it's small numbers for this one.
I know it is. Well, this is something, okay. Perhaps I don't want to say I'll let it slide, but maybe we should look hard and long at this next year.
Okay.
So I move we approve expenses on Department 191 of 4734.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Townhouse, 192.
Mr. Chairman, this is one of the three budgets where we were asked to revisit utilities because the historical expenses to appropriation and projected were pretty out of whack in terms of using the guidelines that have been provided in the past. The virtue of the warrant committee guideline is it's simple, and it's as credible as any other method, but you had asked us to look at perhaps paring back the utilities, electricity, and fuel oil in the townhouse, protective agencies, and town garage. So you have a little spreadsheet in your packet for all three budgets. And what we did, Carl and Chief McGowan, Greer, myself, and Craig, we looked at a number of sort of methodologies that would result in reducing the budget requests to be more in line with what would be a reasonable expectation given the actual expenditures in fiscal 13. So what we came up with that we think we can agree to is that if we make an assumption that electricity for fiscal 15 would be 40% more than the actual fiscal 13 expense, and you know, that's just another method, then we would, the resulting requests for fiscal 15 for the townhouse would be 13,034, protective agencies 25,883, and town garage 16,584. So those numbers would be less than are currently in the fiscal 15 budget. Similarly, with fuel oil, again, looking at the actual usage, taking the highest quantity of the 3 years for each building, and pegging $3.75 a gallon as this mystical number. I mean, I'm not telling you it's going to be the right number, it's a number. Would get you the numbers that are under the fuel oil columns, and again, would result in a reduction in those budgets. And I think if you voted all of these numbers, there's a net savings or a net reduction in budget of about $20,000 over the three budgets. We think we can live with that. It's less conservative than the guideline that the warrant committee has provided, but given the actual expenditure history, it's probably more realistic.
So it's a significant, it's a $4,600 decrease in electricity, but it's almost the same for the fuel. It's on the, I'm looking at the townhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, so the fuel.
So it's really electricity that.
In the townhouse case, yes.
Right.
The reduction in budget, because it's really not savings, we're gonna have to buy however much fuel oil we have to buy, but the budget reduction is more significant in fuel and protective agencies and town garage. And we wanted to come up with a method that would be similar, the same, but also result in a number we're comfortable that we wouldn't exceed. Now, we still could, but it's hopeful that we won't.
John, I know you've given, as chair of the warrant committee, you've given guidelines to all the departments in town. Are you adverse to us reducing our electricity budget? Because what we did is looked at actual uses rather than the cost plus percentage, last year's budget plus percentage. So if we were to reduce our electricity budget, which is a good thing, would you be adverse or take it the wrong way?
I mean, I think that's a wonderful approach, and we've noted in a few other cases and a few other budgets where, for whatever reason over time, the sort of the base number that gets adjusted using the guidelines supplied by the warrant has sort of drifted away from the reality of the actuals. So, I mean, it's much appreciated that you go through that exercise. And then it's also much appreciated that it may be a tighter budget to actuals, or, you know, depending upon the winter that we have. So I think everybody understands that there's some potential that, you know, could end up under budgeting when you do this exercise. But it's very much, I wish we need to do that with, you know, sort of all the budgets, I think, in terms of utilities.
Well, what other budgets in town have utilities? Just the schools, right? What other buildings are there?
That's the big one.
I mean, the library, but that's sort of, that's done by us too, right? Yeah.
Library, I think, has their own budget for utilities.
I believe that they do.
They do.
Yeah. And I think that one has actually been, I believe, without having it in front of me, that one's been in line.
Yeah,
with-
okay.
Not certainly out of line. The school one, they operate a little bit differently because of the way they also purchase their
Yes, right.
heating
Yeah.
oil. But that one could perhaps be, the budget and the actuals could be aligned a little better. We'll see.
Okay. I would like to reduce that budget to that
I agree.
13,034.
So if we reduce that line, then the only other one we have is $1,500, so that brings the total expenses to $61,634.
61,634.
That's right, because this becomes $61,34, then there's $1,500 on the next page.
Is
I believe the number, the total would be 60,134.
60,130.
We have it, we did
Oh,
not
oh, you
actually
didn't-
revise the
If you-
KDS budgets. We just had created this little spreadsheet, so if you decide to go with these, different methodologies that we're proposing, then here
So
are
what's the 6134? Total expenses?
That's total,
Oh, okay. After all the other stuff.
that's correct.
After the
So,
two-
say that number again?
46, oh, I see. Okay, so it's 60, I get it. I thought that was just the,
We didn't want to make the changes to the budgets without the board.
So-
got it,
First,
okay.
approving the methodology.
So it's 60,
What is the new number?
6134,
That's correct.
total expenses.
That's correct.
Okay,
60,134. Good, thank you.
so I move we approve 6134 for Department 192.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Yep. Townhouse, 92.
But we didn't do that for the Carroll's Community Center?
Carol, we had already reduced in our.
Oh, had you?
first
Okay.
budget preparation. We said this is way too much, so we
Okay.
cut it down to 80,000. It was in fiscal 14, 90.
Oh, I see, right, yep.
We already reduced that,
Okay.
because that was too conservative, even for me, Mrs. Lisbon.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. So those numbers will stay the same. Where are we?
So for fiscal year 15, Department 193, we have total expenses of 110,684.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Town report, 195. I don't see any changes to this. Where are we?
Oh, it's down towards the
Oh, it's way
bottom.
down, way down.
Yeah, way down.
I cannot wait to hear the reasoning behind this.
I move we approve expenses of 11,509 for Department 195.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next is building maintenance, 199. No changes from last. And let's find it. We are third up from the, on the
Yep.
list. Okay.
Yep. So I move we approve salaries of 199,270, expenses of 104,000, for a total of 303,270 for Department 199.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Police, which is 201. I don't see any changes.
So, where are we? Okay.
Before we do the police, I have a generic question, because I know hopefully there'll be a warrant article presented at the town meeting for reconfiguration of that area over there. Does that do anything to manpower or man hours needed or anything at all? Has that been contemplated?
Consider that there will be no effect.
Okay. Carol, any?
No, I don't.
Okay, so, so for police, which is Department 201, salaries of $1,767,197, expenses of $116,900, for a budget total of $1,884,097. Do I hear a second on that?
Oh, second, sorry.
All in favor? Aye. Good. Figured I'd give you a break. building inspector, 241. And let me guess here, there we are. Okay.
So,
Inspector,
about a third of the way down, so. Salaries of 81,705, expenses of 42,622, for a total of 85,967.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Civil defense, emergency management, 291. Which is right underneath the building inspector on this sheet. Okay, emergency management.
So, let's see, we needed a correction on the sheet, right? They didn't have the salaries. Remember it showed 0?
That, yes,
Right,
That's in your packet.
it is.
That's in the
your
packet.
folder, yeah.
Ah. Good.
All kinds of new ones, 291. Okay.
Good, okay. I'll make the motion for emergency management, Department 291, salaries of $2,390, expenses of $1,070, for a budget total of $3,460.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So is it 291? Dog control, 292. Okay, I have no changes to that.
Nor do I.
Okay, I'll make the motion for Department 292 dog control, which has salaries of $21,976, expenses of $6,460, for a budget total of $28,436.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
One 94, care of trees.
Yes.
That's the budget that was dropping significantly because we have finished the 2 years of catching up from Hurricane Irene.
Right.
So I move we approve salaries of 8811, expenses of 90,000 even, for a total of 98,811.
I second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I have in my notes that I wanted to request the 5-year tree plan.
It's in the process of being developed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Duly noted.
Tree committee?
Tree committee.
I move we approve expenses of $2,500.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The protective PVC building. This gets back to my previous question about the special warrant article, perhaps, or the capital request of the reconfiguration. How the numbers changed on this? Are you assuming no reconfiguration?
We are assuming no effect from the reconfiguration on this budget.
But we would expect, and we wouldn't want to build it in now, but I would expect that we'll have some savings in fuel.
Utilities, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
utilities, I shouldn't
depending upon
say.
the nature of the disruption of construction, don't know.
No, I mean for the following year. In other
Oh,
words, we're
yeah.
putting in new
Once it's-
glass, or,
Yes.
right, yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
hard to predict that, but certainly it should be a positive effect on
Yeah.
the road.
Right. So,
Which I guess is just, I'm sorry.
no, please.
really haven't looked at the specs yet for the building. I assume we're putting in environmentally
We're going
appropriate.
green.
We're going green,
And-
thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, now, this particular budget also, you did an analysis on electricity and fuel usage, and the original budget request for $40,490 in fuel, so you're suggesting we go to $33,652?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And let's look at electricity. Oh, that's down too. So the original budget was 31,203, and you're suggesting 25,883?
Yes.
Okay.
With the caveat, as John mentioned, it could be more, but
Right.
based on historical expenses, this looks like it's reasonable.
And so
So-
that brings the expenses to 88,235,
Yes.
total expenses for the, that includes the $700 and, okay, yeah.
So I move for Department 299, total expenses of 88,235.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
88,235. Engineering, 411, I believe is the next one.
That's what I've got too.
Okay. I have no, I have no changes to that.
So we have salaries of 34,983, in Department 411, expenses of 23,820, for a total of 58,803.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, highway, which is 422. There we are, okay. Okay, to reiterate, we have the COA van, possible van numbers in here. You see that?
And I please thank Craig for thinking about and recommending a change in our policy on the catch basin. I think environmentally, with all our groundwater protection, I think that's a fantastic idea.
Very forward thinking.
Yep.
22. There you are, okay.
So I move salaries of 465, 411, expenses of 244, 210, for a total of 709, 621.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Snow
Dun,
and
dun,
ice.
dun.
Yep, snow and ice, which
Pick
is
a number,
Department
any number.
423.
Based on the events of last week, we'd like to double that.
Was it Craig who said that when you have a lot of snow before Christmas, it's not a good sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I don't have any changes to snow and ice.
Nor do I.
Crystal ball.
Right. Department 423, salaries 94,700. Expenses of 249,300 for a total of 344,000.
What does the Farmer's Almanac say about this coming winter? Anybody know?
Very cold. I don't believe it said very snowing.
The band on the woolly bears is very thick this year, that's what we generally rely on.
And my left knee tells me it's going to be bad.
Ah,
Okay, so we're in for a real win.
we tackle all the issues on this. Okay, street lighting 424. I see no changes, I have no questions, so I will make the motion for Department 424, street lighting, the amount of $12,297.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The town,
Okay, whoops, this was another,
yeah.
okay, so what do we have here?
And to finish Carol's statement, this is another situation where we looked at the actual usage of electricity and fuel, and let's see how they compare. Okay, so our original budget had $38,145 for fuel. We'll reduce that to $32,313.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And let's look at electricity. Well, it's pretty close, but let's change it anyway because you've already given me the total expense number. So we're gonna, the electricity for the town garage will be $16,584. So your total expenses will be $78,371.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town garage, there we are. Good. Well, again, thank you for doing all the legwork on that.
And I thank the department heads and Greer for helping in the analysis.
Okay. Okay, Tarvia patching, which is Department 428, 250,000, which is consistent for, oh heck, a number of years as far as budget, right?
Level funded.
Yeah. Okay, I'll make the motion for 250,000 for Department 428, Tarvia.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I remember my first year in the warrant committee, I said, what the heck is Tarvia?
I remember my first year in Dover saying, what the heck is it? And going to the dictionary because I didn't believe it. So I never heard of that. It's true.
I think we used to call it hot top.
Hot top.
Hot top. Okay, solid waste, which is Department 439.
So I had asked for the tonnage spreadsheet,
Yep.
so thank you for that. Will you make sure that this goes to the recycling committee?
Yes,
Chris Paulson is the chair.
okay.
And I'll just take the opportunity as a green person and liaison to the recycling committee to thank the citizens of Dover for their recycling efforts, because we have gone down as our population has gone up. Our tonnage is the lowest that it's ever been. And if I just look at let's see,
That's interesting.
it's gone down 20% or 15% in 10 years. And our population has increased significantly, so that's wonderful. Recycle away.
Yeah. What do you guess on the percentage of people in Dover recycle?
Well, the recycling committee has to issue a report to the state each year,
Yeah.
and I think they use the number somewhere in the high 20s. But that's been more or less consistent.
So there's a lot of room for improvement.
There's a lot of room for improvement, and what they have found, and have watched with their own eyes, is that, and the anecdotal stories are such where, you know, the kids require their parents to recycle.
Ah.
So the different recycling bins get put into the back of the car. And when the mom or dad gets to the transfer station, it all gets thrown into household garbage.
Oh.
So that's an issue, and that alone would probably increase the numbers.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they've really done a good job, and Craig has done a great job of organizing the transfer station for recycling. It's really quite easy. Just take
Quite
a thing
easy.
and just go. Ugh. But they have seen it, so, and it sort of makes sense given human nature. So.
Okay. With that little story, thank you.
You're not one of those, are you?
No, actually, I'm not. No, I'm absolutely not. So Department 439, which is solid waste disposal, has salaries of $71,102, expenses of $314,019 for a budget total of $385,121.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
You know, the recycling committee is beginning to work on their goals for the next calendar year. So perhaps in late spring, we can have them come in
Okay.
and talk to us about that.
Okay, Department 450, which is the water department. We had talked about the huge fluctuation in the water department.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we had talked about the fact that the unaccounted for water through the leaks
Yes.
has increased the last couple of years. And there's a provision in the contract with Colonial Water where we have to pay for that. So when there is a leak, we have to pay. So for the last 2 years, we've seen the cost of unaccounted for water be much higher than historically, because frankly, before a couple of years ago, they ignored that provision of the contract. And we have had a series of leaks in the last couple of years, and we've had a couple this year. So unless and until we're able to negotiate a different contract, I think it's prudent to leave some money in here for that unaccounted for water.
Thank you for reminding me of that. And I believe the contract is either set to expire,
It expired in June.
Oh,
You've
thank
asked me to
right.
follow up and
Right.
begin dialogue on another contract.
Okay. How long will those contracts usually go out for?
Typically 5 years.
Okay.
Will this be the first contract with Colonial?
Yes.
Okay, where's town water in this? Did we vote on water yet? No.
No.
Okay, so, Department 450, Water Department, salary line of $6,726, expenses of $20,034 for a budget total of $26,760.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Council on Aging, which would be Department 541. Okay, and we last talked about Council on Aging. We had asked about the fees and how we determine if non-Dover residents and how their fee structure is, but Greer, we want to...
The Council on Aging Director has informed me that the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, who provides all of the municipalities with the formula grants, requires that seniors should not be prohibited from participating in any community's programs, regardless of whether it's their home community or one of these surrounding communities, to make the access available to all. So the fees that are charged are the same across the board.
Thank you.
If a person participating is under 60, they might charge a little bit more, as they do in the case of the yoga program, but for all of the seniors, it has to be the same.
Okay. Okay, good. So, do you have any questions on that?
Bear with me for a sec.
Yeah, sure. What?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, now I'll make the motion then for Council on Aging, which is Department 541, total salaries, $104,542, expenses of $29,600, for a department total of $134,142.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Veterans expenses, Department 543, and I think you have a change to that. And the change was,
What is the change? The numbers are the same.
The veterans agent,
oh,
his
salary,
Oh,
salary was moved to the salary side of the budget from expenses.
right. Okay, I'll make the motion for the veterans. Where are we, veterans? Department 543, salaries of 1,000, expenses of 1,000, total budget of 2,000, if my math is correct. Do I hear a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next, we'll skip the Dover's share of the regional school. That's not yet available. We'll skip the Minuteman vocational expenses because we do not know that number yet. Okay, where are we? Norfolk Aggie? No, Norfolk County Agricultural High School, I should say. We're not ready for that one either, if I remember correctly. Wait, no, we are.
Are we?
Did we get it?
Yes.
Well, that's retirement, that's retirement.
504?
604?
Oh, 604, 604.
Let me guess. No, that's 911. 604? Do I even see it on this?
It's on the very back.
Ah, there we go, okay. So, we estimated, yeah, no, we can vote for that. We estimated a $6,000 assessment based on 3 students. And that's still good information?
Best we have.
Okay, I'll make the motion for Department 604, which is Norfolk County Agricultural High School, a $6,000 budget.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Next would be the Historical Commission, 691. Okay. I don't have any changes to that, Carol.
Oh, nor do I.
Okay. Department 691, which is Historical Commission, a total budget of $1,250.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Memorial Day, Department 692, level funded at $2,700. I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Maturing debt principal, which is Department 710. And this is all from the amortization schedule, is that correct, Dave?
It is, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so there's no changes to this, unless the amortization schedule is incorrect. So the motion is for Department 710, maturing debt principal of $1,160,400.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Maturing debt interest, Department 751. Again, from an amortization schedule, prepared, and that totals, for fiscal 215, $263,200.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Maturing debt, principal, this is interest, okay. Bank charges, Department 759. You have a budget of $4,000. I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, Norfolk County retirement expenses, which is Department
Something.
911. And
Yeah.
I think there's a little write-up somewhere on that one.
There's a memo on that, Mr. Chairman.
So the fiscal 215 county retirement assessment's been set. Using the lump sum option, we can get a discount, and which we have determined to use, so the assessment is $929,039. Because of our lump sum option, our assessment is approximately 1.5% less than other members in the system. Good. Which would be about 150 grand or so. Rough numbers.
The fiscal year 31 target date. Could you just refresh my memory on that? There was a discussion about moving that out because of the 2008 downturn. So is that the new date, or are they being conservative?
I'm not sure of that, Mrs. Lisbon. I'd have to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
It's still less than the statutory maximum allowed, but I don't know whether they moved it out from what it had been before this valuation report was done. I'll have to look into that.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I think we just voted that in, did we? That number?
I don't think.
Yes,
I don't think
You did
voted.
not.
No.
Yeah, no, you actually, yeah.
I move we approve 929,039.
Yes.
9 with,
It's on the back, it's, there's no number on this.
oh,
No, it's on, the budget is in your.
okay, so 929,039.
That's correct.
Right.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Norfolk County retirement. Okay. Workers' compensation insurance, which is Department 912. Okay, we're estimating a 2.5% increase per our consultant. Okay. Where are we on this? Okay, I'll make the motion for workers' compensation, which is Department 912, the amount is $62,025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Group insurance, Department 914, as we sprint toward the end. Again, we're using a 10% estimate over the previous year per a consultant. Those rates are set when, February? February, yeah. So, we have to use the consultant's estimate right now if we want to move the system along.
Yes, we will. I think we need to have another conversation with her, because other entities in West Suburban are using 7%, which is the number that she had given us this summer. And I think the region is using 7% in their budget.
February will tell.
Yeah.
You know, as I think I explained, when there is a reserve, the full funded actuarial increase can be different because they can subsidize that with the reserves. But as Carol had mentioned to me, as Carol Cormier had mentioned to me in our conversation, the reserves for West Suburban are now being depleted by these subsidies of past years. So 10% is not an unrealistic, conservative projection for right now.
Yeah.
February is always an interesting meeting, and you get to get a feel for what kind of financial shape communities are in. Some people don't care at all about next year. We just gotta make the budget balance for this year, so rob the reserve. Others are more temperate, saying, well, we have to think about multi years, because if we have an artificially low year this year, then next year it's gonna be a whacker. And then we kind of
Yeah.
come to a consensus that nobody likes.
Well, to your point, obviously I'd like to get closer to the truth, so to speak, but I wouldn't want
The
to come
problem
back.
is that no one knows the truth.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, which is a good point, closer to it. But I'd rather reduce the budget in February than increase it.
Oh, absolutely,
Right,
oh, I
yeah,
agree,
okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. That being said, we have group health insurance, Department 914, in the amount of $2,162,458.
Second,
All in favor? Aye. So February, thank you. Medicare FICA expenses, Department 916. And those are a function of payroll dollars, basically. Okay,
I move, we approve expenses of 153,746.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Last but not least, other well, no, hold on. Yeah, okay, highway. Other insurance, Department 950. Oh, there we are. The amount of $191,697. It's the very first line of the second.
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that is that for approving the Selectmen's 2015 operating budgets. So, are we missing any?
I think we've got them all, except for
Just,
those that we're waiting
just
for
the
assessments on.
three schools.
Right, okay, good. So the Minuteman, well, the
Two,
Minuteman,
Minuteman,
the
and the
regional,
regional.
so two schools, thank you.
That's what I got, North Aggie.
Where was the regional on this?
We don't put that on because it's not a selectmen's budget? On
Oh,
your
right.
spreadsheet, it's not a selectmen's budget, so.
Okay. Okay, I'm with you.
How are we doing on warrants? Have we received many?
Heads up from the planning board, conservation commission, and of course the region.
Planning board, Concom in the region, and to that extent, council aging and revolver.
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be one. And then, Concom, I'll think of it. Perhaps Park and Rec, when, they might have one too. I don't know.
Oh,
We haven't heard from Park and Rec yet.
so just a reminder that the warrant closes on, is it the 17th?
January.
January.
16th, 17th?
What is the,
23rd?
No,
No,
it's
no.
17.
it's
I think
the,
it's-
that Friday, in January, the 16th or the 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is to approve the updated fiscal 2015 Selectmen's capital budget request. Okay. What has changed, Dave?
Nothing has changed. We're still waiting, we're working on refreshing the numbers for the dispatch reconfiguration project.
Good.
And the architect is working on the elevation projections for the bathrooms at the Carroll School, so we're still waiting on those numbers.
Okay. I'll look forward to getting those numbers. What did I do with that? Do you have any, okay, so, what did I just do with that? Is this what we have tonight?
Yeah,
Okay, good, thank you.
yeah.
So, well, that being said, what are we supposed to do tonight in the form of?
Well, I
action?
was hopeful that we would have new numbers on the dispatch configuration, but we're still working on those numbers.
Okay, thank you. I get it.
You have to be an optimist in this job, so. We were hoping we'd have numbers, we don't have.
Okay.
I know we didn't discuss this the last time, I'm just looking at the, the $450,000 for the boiler at the community center, which is
2 boilers.
2 boilers. Pick a year, any year, depending on when they go. We just sort of keep moving it out 1 year at a time. And I'm just wondering if we can move it out 2 years to
Well,
make
the
us
other
feel
thing-
better.
Probably-
You could, but let me just share with you that Carl and I have talked with the mechanical contractor who did the underground storage tank up to above ground tanks. And we're hoping to commission him in the spring to come in and do a sort of more real-time analysis of the boilers as they sit and the controls.
Oh, okay.
And what would make sense as far as, we don't want to be in a reactive mode. We don't function well in a reactive mode. A boiler blows up and now you have no heat. But we don't want to be, we want to maximize the useful life of these Smith boilers that last forever. So what we're thinking we'd like to do in the spring, assuming we have enough money and professional services, is ask this fellow come in and give us a thoughtful analysis based on your knowledge of the existing condition of these boilers and the control systems. A lot of the controls are dead over there. The COA room pumps heat. If it's not cold out, it's hot inside because it's an on or off proposition. So we want to get a more thoughtful handle on this as opposed to simply just keeping on the carrot on the stick and keep chasing it out. Because again, we don't do well with pure reactivity.
No, especially something like this, which could just close out the building.
Yes.
Major.
There's no redundancies because of the 2 boilers, they're just different zones, so to speak?
No, they are redundancy. We
Oh.
could run on one boiler and we have. So that's part of the analysis.
Well, that's positive news.
Yeah.
What we had done in this building 15 years ago, we had 2 boilers. We replaced one with the renovation. This was a political mistake in my judgment because for years people hammered me when we came back with the second boiler. No, we already did the boiler. No, we did one boiler, we didn't do the other. But in casual conversation with a mechanical engineer, he said, it doesn't really make sense to do that anymore. When you replace them, you want to replace all 3 of them, and these are the technical reasons why. You want to replace both of them at the same time. So I was thinking, oh, well, so we can't do it that way. But let's look at it more thoughtfully in the spring and come back with something.
Go ahead. Well, strictly, is his reasoning economies of scale?
It's economies of scale, and with what he's hoping to replace them with, you might not be able to get something 2 or 3 years later that will work in phasing with the boilers that you're going to put. The boiler, he's actually talked about maybe 3 boilers to replace the 2 boilers for reasons that we haven't talked about yet. He's thinking, that's the technology has evolved on this too.
That's a perfect building to think about green initiatives. You have a flat roof, number 1, for solar. So this will get interesting in the spring when we have some time to dedicate to looking at retrofitting the energy over there. Because you are a green consultant.
Well, I'm committed to green, but I'm not a consultant. I mean, we could do with it, we could do with a energy committee like Sherburne has, which are folks that have really delved into this and really know what they're talking about. Because it's such a fast-moving, maybe we can hire them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not all that easy, and there are grants out there and all kinds of stuff. It really requires a very, if you're really committed to doing it, it's not easy.
Right.
That's a special expertise.
It's
And
a
I
special
know-
expertise, and you don't want to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there are
Right.
towns that have done it, and there are committees that have done it, so.
I know it's very difficult to get the green certificate for the whole town. It's very difficult. There's a lot of hurdles in that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, let's put that on the agenda for maybe the spring or right after town meeting or something and get that going.
when you walk through the trade show at the MMA,
Yeah.
there are an incredible number of green energy consultants there that are very interested in working with the cities and towns in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But to your point about controls, are there control, this is more your area than mine, are there control improvements that could be made that would improve the heating situation in the building, regardless of the boilers themselves?
There probably are, but you would want to at least design it in his total system, even if you did the implementation in pieces.
What the building lacks is the electronics and the controls that you can gear to the type of tenant that you have. Because all the tenants over there, obviously, whether it's the kids in the morning, COA for 6 hours or whatever they're over there, I don't think the controls handle that. So we can certainly find efficiencies in
So like zoning, you mean?
yeah, tailoring it,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
tailoring the controls to tenant use. Okay, so we will not do anything on the Selectmen's capital budget requests until such time as we get numbers for the reconfiguration of the dispatch area and what else? Anything
And the
else?
bathrooms.
And the bathrooms for the Carroll Community Center. Thank you. Okay, on to the next agenda item, which is to approve a washed sand bid. And who can speak to this?
I can.
Thank you,
The wash sand bids were just opened this very morning, and we had 3 bidders this year. One of them was automatically disqualified for not having a plant within a 20-mile radius of Dover. That's for getting deliveries expeditiously as needed during storm events. The 2 bidders were SM LaRusso and Sons of Walpole and LaRusso Corporation of Plainville. They both bid in prior years, and the low bidder was SM LaRusso and Sons, with prices of sand delivered at $14.65 per ton, and sand picked up at $11.40 per ton.
Do we tend to pick up or deliver?
We usually have it delivered, but we do like to award for both in the event that we do want to go out and pick it up ourselves.
So that's a 40% increase. What's happened to sand?
Fuel driven, is my
Oh,
understanding.
it's just a delivery issue? Gas prices were actually less than last year.
I would like to thank Craig for taking somewhat of the initiative to look at alternatives to sand during the winter months. And I know he's been working on that, so thank you, Craig. I look forward to that.
Wow.
Okay. Okay, so we've awarded it to SM LaRusso, so I'll make the motion that we award the wash sand bid to SM LaRusso and Sons, Inc. of Walpole, Massachusetts.
Second.
All in favor?
When we did the budget for this year, FY14, did we anticipate that kind of increase? Are we going to have a budgetary problem?
I don't think we specifically addressed it, but it's not a sufficient enough effect that
Okay.
would alter the budget.
On to other business on the agenda, which is the mileage reimbursement rate that we look at every year and vote to either change or accept. And if I may, you've provided us with the IRS 2014 standard mileage rates. And these are the ones you're suggesting, Dave?
They are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, which are 56 cents per mile for business miles driven, 23.5 cents per mile driven for medical or moving purposes, and 14 cents per mile driven in service of charitable organizations. And if I read further, these are, okay, business medical and moving decreased to 1/2 cent from 2000 rates, and the charitable rate is based on statute, which is, I don't know if that's explained here, but these rates seem reasonable. Carol, do you?
Nope.
Okay. Then I'll make the motion to approve the mileage reimbursement rates, 56 cents per mile for business, 23.5 cents for medical moving, and 14 cents for charitable organizations.
So moved. Or second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did I sign the washed,
We did not.
no, the
Thank you.
washed sand bid? Thank you. Okay, we have, next agenda item is the meeting minutes of December 4th, 2013. What's today's, today's the 19th, okay. I have no changes to
Nope,
these.
they look good.
I'll make the motion to accept the December 4th, 2013 meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. As we close in, we have citizens' comments on the agenda. Carol, do you have anything?
Just, well, I'm sure you'd say the same
No,
thing.
please.
Happy holidays, happy new year to all.
Yes, very good, I second that. And to everyone out there, by the way, not just us.
To all.
To all, good night, thank you. Then I will entertain a motion for adjournment then.
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.